Okay, today's video lesson is on the differences and the similarities between the signal stand in utility and the moving stand for exam in utility. Every single person I've trained, and myself included when I first learned utility, always mixes those two exercises up. So, in order to understand it, we have to kind of dig down into the minutia of why they're different, because you both, you heel and then you stand the dog. One you keep going, one you stay with the dog. So there's those kind of questions in the very novice part of it. And then as you start to train it and you figure out where it is in the pattern of like the utility A class, because that's generally where you show first when you haven't done a lot of utility, then you will start to understand which one is which by where it is in the pattern. But then when you start into the B exercises where the patterns are more mixed, and those 6 different patterns can either start with the utility stand for exam instead of the signals, you might start to get mixed up there again, okay? Because you'll have had it in the exercise pattern logically as it's mapped in an A class, but then when you switch to the B class, you might get mixed up again, and that would be okay and natural, okay? Because it's until you've done it a few times with a few dogs, it takes sometimes a little while to sink in. Okay, so let's talk about the basics. Both are heeling into the stand, and the dog needs to stop in heel position, okay? So if they jump out here and stand, or they jump back here and stand, or they jump wide and stand, those are all scoreable points, okay, out of position. You need the dog to stand in as close to heel position as possible. That means the dog's back of his jaw to his shoulder should be midline with your pant seam, okay? That's heel position. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is when you do the signal stand, where you've done a whole heeling pattern first in the ring, you stop with the dog. With the utility signal exercise, it's called, you heel full pattern, the judge calls a halt, a fast, a slow, maybe another halt, and then he says, as you come down the center, stand your dog. That is the one where you stop with the dog. Most often, I try to stop with my right foot and bring my left foot up. That way, if the dog has positioned himself slightly ahead, I could stand 1, 2. That's about the most you're going to get out of a judge without being really scored, okay? But that might help me get a better position with my dog. Most of the time, I don't even pay attention though, unless my dog's really charging hard, then I'll try to give her some help that way. But most of the time, it's just a flat stand. And sometimes I'm trying to get her to jump up and touch my hand. The dog shouldn't physically touch your hand in the ring, but in training, if I can get a hand touch, then I know I'll have a good solid stop, okay? Because if my dog will power through and do a stand, a jump into a stand, which is Susan Garrett's stand method, then I also know that the dog is locked, okay? Watch. Okay? Now, I let her touch my hand in training, stay. She's exactly even between her jaw, touch. Jaw and shoulder is at my mid-leg. I don't have much room to do this sideways in there, but I think you can see that we're in heel position. And when I go to leave her, I don't want to have to put my hand way out if she's forged, right? I want to just do a hand position like that, or a hand position like that, and leave. Because this is all signals. I'm not allowed to say anything in this exercise. Now, with this exercise, the judge is standing somewhere behind the dog. It could be directly behind, it could be off to one of the corners. God bless the judges who do that for the newer dogs. It really helps them. And then they start to move their arms to give you the signals once you've walked away. In your practice, if someone's physically helping you, have them start to move their arms while you're walking away, right away, so that the dog stops reacting to someone moving their arms. Darren calls it snow angel. He has to move his arms while I walk away if he helps me. Okay, and that's to proof the dog. They should not be responding on the judge's command or the shadow. Because in some buildings, the judge raising their arm will throw a shadow on the ground, and the dog will react to the shadow as well when they get experienced. So you want the dog to ignore all of this. So you can proof your own dog with this, right? And what I would do in that proofing is I would toss a cookie out. It's your choice, so my dog shouldn't leave. And I will do some hand signals. And if my dog is looking ahead at that cookie and ignoring my arms, get it? Yes. Okay, I want her to focus on the cookie. Tubi, watch. Good. That is one thing I want her to do. Wait. Good. All right. So that is the signal stand. As for the moving stand, that's going to be a different thing. And that also starts with heeling, but only 3 to 5 steps of heeling generally. And depending on your stride length, you have to really watch that you're not taking huge strides sometimes, because you'll get really out of position from where the judge intended you to be. Okay? And then you have to walk 10 to 12 feet from the dog, and then the judge will go over the dog. Then you'll call the dog into heel, either around or foot finish. Okay? So I won't do the whole exercise, but I'm going to do the stop part here. Tubi, watch. Yes. And she did not hit my hand, but she came up, but she locked when she landed. That's the most important part. I'm going to come back and play a little It's Your Choice. Good. And then the exam, of course. And always remember to examine your dog on both sides, because the exam might make them nervous, and so they have to know how to do it on both sides. They have to know how to do it with you standing over them. Little proofing here. Okay, threw a cookie up there, it rolled way far away. I'm going to go toss a little closer one. Good. Good. I'm going to go get the one that went behind the camera so she doesn't try to go under the tripod and either knock over the camera or hurt herself. And then I'm going to go back behind her and test whether she is stable. She's very stable. Get it? Good. Good. Okay, touch. Yes, good. All right. So, with those two exercises, we have to have the stop. We have to have a good lock. Tubi does not always have a good lock up. If she's nervous with the people, the people around the ring, the stewards in the ring, or the judge, I'm not going to get a good lock up. I already know that. That's her weak point in her temperament, and it just is. So I always work against it by going to Lowe's and places where there's new people all the time. But, you know, it is her. So I don't freak out about it. I just keep practicing what I want in between to keep building the behavior I want. And when I can get it at Lowe's or Home Depot, those kind of areas with announcements going on and people walking by with carts and all that kind of stuff, then I know we're good, okay? I start out on the sidewalk. Sometimes I don't even get in the store because she's too worried. And I'm not going to force her to do it and make her scared. So you have to look at your dog. People may not be a problem, like with Kiss. With Kiss, she wants to go meet the person. That's another problem, right? We have dogs that are too friendly. So that dog does a lot of It's Your Choice. As the handler approaches to examine the dog, I do It's Your Choice with Kiss so she knows to hold her ground. So I'll show you that in a minute too. But both exercises require the dogs to stop, okay? That lockup is what we're looking for. So I initially train that, you know, with a platform stay. And it's actually several platforms, so that the dog is all on the platform. We do teach that with puppy stage, like you've seen me do with Extra already. He's doing the stand, the down, the sit. And then I transfer to a little winged stand. Good. Back. Right. Watch. Touch, stand. Oh, you didn't do the touch because the thing is there. Okay, let's try it again. Ready? Touch. Yes. Good. And I'm going to throw it in It's Your Choice cookie. I'm going to examine again. Good. You see her little mouth is open. And for that dog that's nervous about people or who likes people too much, I'm going to do It's Your Choice right by her face. Get it. Good. Okay, break. So that's for practicing inside. And these are just little shelves that you can buy on Amazon for college kids to make bookcases out of at college, their dorms. Otherwise, I use this pushed into the ground at home in the yard, and this works really, really well as a stop because they're all matte black finish, so the dog doesn't really see them. The thinnest wire ones you can find are the best. And I have, I think, one set back here. One piece of it that's left. And these are the holy grail because the dog really can't see this. Okay, this is really hard to see. And I'm blind to them too because I trip over them in the yard if they're out in the yard all the time. So this one's a little bit bent and it's starting to get rusted. I need to go find another one at Lowe's. But no, it's definitely going to be bent and fall over tonight. So this one might not work so well to show you, but this is the one that I prefer because it's so hard to see. And if the dog can't see it, watch. Up here. Watch. Yes. Okay? They're more liable to make a mistake and bump into it if they can't see it. So for both the moving stand and the signal stand, these are taught exactly the same way. And you just start moving slightly with the dog like I am and putting a cookie on the floor. Okay, good. Yes, good job. And so start with the one where you stop with them, then gradually start to move away. And remember to practice both all the time because the dog is going to see both exercises in the utility ring. And if you always practice moving away and not staying with, they might sit on your signal stand in the first utility A exercise. If you always practice signal stand and stay with them, when you start to walk, they're not going to know to stay. Okay, so you've got to practice both ways. Okay, over here. Yes, good. Good. Okay, so there's one where I stop with the dog. So I try to practice 50-50 when I do these. And then I also try to practice, stay. Some of this, so the dog knows, ignore the arms, ignore the shadow. Okay, get it. Yes, good girl. And I don't care if they knock it over once they are running to it. So that just gives you an idea that those are the props we use for both exercises. And on both exercises, if the dog travels, okay, more than a body length, to be here, stand, more than a body length, a little bit sideways, yes. Okay, if Tubi travels from, touch, stay, no, touch, stay. Why are you flipping out? Come here, stand, good, stay, stay. If Tubi travels more than her body length, right here, okay, from there to there, in utility signals by stepping forward when she was supposed to stop, laying down, sitting up, if she has travel in those areas and moves forward more than a body length, that's an automatic fail, okay? Read your rules. And then in utility moving stand for exam, if they travel in that exercise, you are either going to get huge points to a fail depending on how many steps they take. I usually figure 1 point per step. Some judges are more lenient with that, like they wait until the dog has stopped, and then if they travel and move a foot, then it's a point. So some dogs will go do, and then step, that's a point. But if they just travel and go do, and stay finally, then the judge won't take any points off. But most judges won't. But some take off for the travel, some don't, is what I'm trying to say. So try to get your dog not to travel at all in that signal stand, because truthfully, to the heel, good. If I give that signal, she should stay there. And to be back up, sit, good. She actually stopped too soon there. She knew I was going to do a short one. To the heel. Good, that was a better one. Landed in heel position there. Okay. It could be a little bit of a lag, but I think it's because she's heading into a doorway where she knew we were going to stop. So, but her jawline is still even with the middle of my body. So I think that would be acceptable to most judges. Okay, break. So, focus on getting the stop, no foot movement, use your props until forever, because I still use props in my yard when I practice with my girls. Partially because even if I'm videoing, if they travel, I haven't fixed it. If they bump into the fence, it fixes them automatically. But if I'm just videoing to see what's going on and they have traveled, I miss the opportunity to stop them from traveling, okay? And this teaches them, especially when you use that little green, very invisible one, they'll bump it a couple times and then they'll start stopping, okay? Tubi, break. Okay, break. You don't have to stand there like a statue. Down. Okay, so use the props. The other thing you can use when you start to need more help is a clear foot target, because the dog should know to keep their feet on the target, right? To the heel. Sit. To the heel. Watch. Touch. Yes. Okay, let's try that again. She hasn't done this in a long time. Come here. Watch. Touch. Yes. Put your foot on it. Touch. Yes. I'm going to reward for a quarter of a foot on there. Okay, come on. I know the dogs outside are playing in the pool. She's so jealous. To the heel. Touch. Yes. Right there. That's what I want. So you can teach your dog to put their feet on and stay there while you walk away. So that might help with motion. You might still have the fence involved, okay? Because like I said, you're going to use it pretty much forever, right? Okay, break. Good. Heel. Good. And so I use the targets for many, many things. Drop on recall, the stand, stay, sit, stay, down, stay, stationary signals. Yes. So if I'm doing command discrimination signals, yes. Regular signals. Okay, break. Okay. Yes, good. All right, so you can use the clear target to help you as well. If your dog really, really breaks, go back to your foundation. Remember that everything in utility breaks 3 times. No matter what method you trained, no matter how well you trained it the first time, everything breaks about 3 times in utility, and you need to go back and massage it and fix it, okay? But that doesn't mean you need a new method to teach it. It means whatever method you were going to use, your dog probably was going to be weak in that area, okay? So go back and use the same foundation method, platform, foot target, fences, and rebuild the behavior. Mark when they're correct. Use the push, drop, stick method with this, right? Because what you'll find is there's a weakness in there that you didn't know was there. To be down. So for instance, I started working with Darren's Kiss this week in an effort to maybe get a utility title this fall at some of the outdoor trials. And what I found was she can do the stand and the down, but her sit is weak and her recall is weak. Her recall is weak though because she's confused it with a drop on recall signal, okay? So Darren was using a signal to drop her, he was using a signal to call her, but my signal to call her was up here. So she was lying down when I would do a recall, okay? So figured out the problem like the first time we worked on it, and I thought, oh, that's easy to fix, I'll just change my signal. But I'm gradually bringing it up because I want her to know I might flub up in the ring, and if this happens, she still needs to know to come, that it's not that. She isn't seeing the back of the hand and the front of the hand as an important part yet. So I'm going to work her through that up to my signal, because he doesn't particularly feel confident in utility, and he doesn't want to show. He doesn't care if she gets a utility title so much now that she's got her CDX, but I care. So the thing is we've got to look at each individual dog. I started using the push, drop, stick with Kiss. It was very evident those 2 exercises need help, both the recall and the sit signal. So those 2 behaviors need help. Within 2 lessons, she improved greatly, and then I tried to distract her with part of my body hidden. Okay, I was standing behind here. I think you can still see me on the camera maybe. And I was obscuring the lower half with 2/3 of my body. and I was giving her this signal and this signal, and she couldn't respond to her sit. Okay, and I didn't even try come because this was broken, right? So if there's something broken in the chain, I'm not gonna bother with that. So what I'll start to do is practice with obscuring my body by the kitchen counter bar, by this, and doing this, and then tossing her some treats. Just take it out of the whole behavior so that she's not doing the stand or the down, so that we just get rid of that. And can't she just do a signal sit anytime I do that with my hands? So that's how we're fixing it. So anytime something's broken in the chain, you take it out of the chain, and then we will continue to work on that with push drop stick. The other thing is I did some back chaining with her. I did some sit recalls, hand signal recalls. Then I did some leaving her in a down and doing a sit and a recall. And then I started to leave her in a stand, then give her the down, then the sit, then the recall. So I was back chaining the actual signal exercise itself. Okay, so just make sure that if your dog is failing one of those pieces, even the stand, you need to rebuild the whole exercise so they're more confident as they move through the exercise because they've done it more times. Okay, and so with Kiss, I think because this was confusing to her, it stressed her out in the other parts of the exercise right before it because she wasn't sure whether she was supposed to come or down when my arm was up. So I think I caused the confusion, not because Darren's not always consistent with his signals. So I try to interpret what he's done and then try to make the most out of how it would work with me. If I get completely dumb and walk in the ring with her and do 2B signals, I need her to know it's close to what she already knows. And so I'm starting to kind of rebuild her signals that way. But back chaining it made it stronger in like one lesson. So I can tell you that using the push drop stick method of could she do 5 for 5? Okay, now I can add criteria. Today when I tried to add criteria, she couldn't do it. She was only like 3 for 5. So I've got to stick at, I'm going to do partial body disappear. Okay, I'm going to do like this much of me so she can still see part of my body. And that'll be tonight's homework. Can she do the sit signal from that? And in my sit signal, I'm generally in the ring, I go all the way up, but in practice I start here and I stop here because I want her to know by here you should be up. I shouldn't have to get to here and then you start to react. So she's reacting like 1 second after my hand gets here because I think she's waiting for this. I'm not giving her that. I'm giving her the least amount of signal. I want her down here as this arm comes up, and I want her sitting here as this arm comes up. So also pay attention to your criteria for your dog with that sort of thing, and then back chain it to build it stronger. Okay, so with signals and moving stand, the way I would coach you to remember it, if you get into the ring and you're not sure, because that's when it most likely strikes us, right? Everybody always has like one little moment of their brain escaping them of what is supposed to happen next. Say to yourself as you walk to the exercise, signal exercise. That means that's the one you stop with the dog, signal exercise. And then when you say moving stand for exam, the moving is the cue that you keep moving after you tell the dog to stand, okay? So if you can keep the moving one in your head and then say the exercises to yourself as you walk to the setup point. So if I step into the ring and I'm doing signal exercise, I'm saying to my dogs, this is signals. Even before I go into the ring, if that's the first exercise, I tell them outside the ring what we're doing first. And as I take off the leash, we're doing signals. And it's quiet. I don't announce it to the whole world. If I'm walking between exercises, it might be touch, touch, touch. Or I used to do nose bridge, but now we're not allowed to have constant contact anymore, even though that was really hard to train. So I might be doing touch, spin, and then saying, we're going to go do moving stand. We're going to go do moving stand. Okay? But I might be saying it really quiet, so you might never hear me do that. But I am doing it with my dog. Most good trainers are. And that way the dog gets a pre-cue of what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, so it will help them. And especially for Kiss, who I can say drop on recall and moving stand and help her start to get those two things separate in her mind, where right now that line is really blurry to her. Because she's not being bad, she's really trying to give effort. She lays down really fast and I'm like, aw, she thought she did that right. but she didn't, and so I need to be a better trainer and help her with that, okay? All right, so the ending to the moving stand is the dog coming to you from 10 to 12 feet away and into heel, either a flip finish or a swing. In signals, the dog is coming front, and remember that as the dog sits in front of you, you need to look back up to the judge. He's going to give you a signal finish. He's not going to say anything to you. Also, when you're running each other through, make sure if you're doing signal heeling and that signal exercise at the end, you don't say call your dog or you don't say finish. There's no verbal from the judge during signal exercise, and there's specifically no verbals from us to the dog. You could do a heel verbal if the dog is out of control and leaving you or something to save the run, but it'll be 3 to 5 points. Like, depends how much you have to really try to get them back. By that time, they should have heeling training, right? Okay, so the dog comes to front. I look up at the judge, then I give my finish command or my around command, okay? So make sure that you understand when you run someone else through, because I think I saw this on some of the tapes, you were saying finish at the end of a signal heeling, and that's wrong. That's incorrect. The judge should always be silent in that and giving a signal. Same with drop on recall. Make sure that the judge is silent in that. So if you're judging someone else or running someone else through, that you use just hand signals in that exercise and show the person before they leave what hand signals are going to be. I'm going to tell you to call your dog, drop your dog, and call your dog. Okay? So give the hand signals so the person you're running through doesn't misinterpret something. Okay? That's happened at, even with command discrimination. Some of the judges, are subtle, and they might have a fly land on them and, flick their hand or whatever. Sorry, that was a little political. But no, really, they might make some unusual movement, and you might think that's the next thing to do, but it might not be. We had a situation at the Classic 2 years ago or a year ago where a dog, the handler thought the judge had given a cue with her hand started to move, and it wasn't the cue for the dog to drop or change position. I think it was in command discrimination. And so that exercise was new. The handler wasn't sure what the judge's cues were, even though she had watched her in prior exercises. The judge had done several different things. And so judges are still working out being consistent with that, right? So we have to give some latitude there, but we also have to be responsible to watch the runs in front. And if you are not sure of the judge's hand signals for what to do, ask them, okay? Because it will make them be consistent. You can walk into the ring and say, I watched your command discrimination with several different people, but I'm not clear on what your command was. I wouldn't say you did it 2 or 3 different ways. I would say, I'm not clear on what your cues are. Can you show me that before we start that exercise? And then, of course, they'll try to help you. But it will also make the judge aware that something was inconsistent in their handling or their commands and cueing, and it will help them, okay? But you need to say it nicely, okay? Because I've been inconsistent when I call for other people because that's a newer exercise for me, and I haven't done it a lot. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, please let me know. And it's just, I had several questions back in the summer when we were doing the dock-off run-throughs, and I wrote this down as something to follow up on with you guys, and it seemed an appropriate time because I had started to do the training with my own dogs, so that's why I brought this up this week. And if you have any topics for specific things on classes or rules that you would like me to discuss, please let me know, and I will do my best to answer all your questions. It's hard when I'm not seeing you in person to always know what your questions are. It's really good when you send me videos, though. I can really help you when I see things wrong, and you might get like 10 things wrong out of a video. But it's good because you can watch the video yourself, see the mistake on film, and then go back and think about that when you do it again, when you train your dog again, okay? So don't be afraid to get me videos that might look messy or might have loud noises in the background or whatever. Just get them to me. I can live with whatever. I've had to do some videos with my neighbor mowing the grass and some loud truck coming up the road, and it's like, could you people just be quiet for an hour while I'm outside? but Alex next door likes to mow his yard. Darren says it's because he's off work and he has to be home with the family. So he's always outside on his mower.